Magic items in our fantasy games are great. They let you do a wealth of stuff that you couldn't do otherwise. However, I'm willing to bet that a bunch of people put them into their games without considering what I'm going to talk about today. So, let's talk about it. Hello everyone and welcome to Dungeon Bits, and today I'm going to talk about magic items. But I'm not going to make one of those videos where it's a YouTuber sitting in front of a camera telling you what magic items are, and which are the best ones out of 5, as if you've never played before. Instead, I'm going to give 3 ways to approach magic items that can completely change your game. Not in terms of balance, but in terms of the feel and setting of your game. Also, feel free to fill the comments with your great ideas so other people can come along, see a wealth of points of view, and pick the one that suits them the best. First up, let's say that magic items are extremely common. Like, let's say you can go down the street, purchase a service to enchant a mundane item, and being an artificer is as common as being an engineer, then that would be emblematic of high fantasy games. And that much is obvious. Magic items being everywhere means that the presence of magic is high fantasy. You may want to do this in your games if you just love magic items. You want to give them out, shower them on your players. But that does bring me to my point in the form of a question. Does high fantasy, where magic items are everywhere, put an emphasis on magic items? No. No, doing this de-emphasizes magic items altogether. And by the way, this is not me saying, well, because of this, you shouldn't play in high fantasy games. Not at all. There will be some who love magic items so much that you just hard disagree with this, saying that magic items only become de-emphasized if you don't emphasize them as a bad GM. Oh yeah, you want to clap back? Yeah? You want to leave snooty comments? Well, you know what? Well, it is kind of true. Kind of. Because if you watch a movie or play a game where there's a lot of powers and a lot of stuff happening all at once, unless you have toned down moments for comparison, high magic becomes the norm, from a setting point of view and how it feels as a viewer or player. As an example, have you heard of a game called Numenera? I love Numenera. It's such a cool setting concept, but the way that you have to run that game requires you to retrain your brain a little. It's a setting where so much magical and technological developments have happened across many rises and falls of civilizations over 1 million years. High fantasy magic and magitech is literally the baseline. If you come across a robot in this setting, that's incredibly boring. If that robot seems to be constantly shifting, as if it's made from liquid metal and it weaponizes its ability to heat up the iron in your blood, that's the norm. But if that robot literally has a contained black hole in its chest and it harnesses an alternate reality to unleash pure arcane plasma, okay, now we're talking. When your baseline is up here, you have to go even higher for it to be special. So consider that when putting magic items in your games. Do you want them to be so common that they're basically just another form of equipment to use on your adventures? Or magic items are rare. I personally prefer doing this in my game, but it's not for everyone. So, as always, pick your poison. If magic items can't be bought and even sold, because owning one as a standard peasant puts a very risky target on your head to be robbed, and magic items can only be gained and found, then this is the opposite of high fantasy. Oddly enough, putting magic items out of reach does emphasize them, and that is because rarity, just like monsters, makes them special. Like, if your heroes just casually stumble across a mind flayer, a ghost, a beholder, or some other high weirdness monster, then again, it becomes the norm, and it's no longer special. It's just, oh, it's another mind flayer. You have to ask yourself, do you want this setting to be one where the players will get all giddy when they sense that, oh, this sword, it's magical? Then make them rare. Simple. And trust me, I completely understand. You love your players and their characters and you want them to have all the toys. But if you have some restraint, they will come to cherish what they get. And not only that, but think about what doing this would do to your setting and the feel of your game. You can make items be the only one of its kind. A bag of holding is well known to us players, but if it's the only bag of holding ever made, then it's an artifact of itself. A bag that can literally bend the laws of space. Not only that, but rarity means that the item can have its own story. Some say that the Holy Avenger is planted in a rock at the summit of Mount Olympus, and only a paladin that has proved their worth can pull it out. When all of your items are just standard gear, and then your patron saint blesses you with a divine blade, casted down to the mortal world just for you to enact their holy will. Or when you slay a dragon and pull from its hoard a blade drenched in the slain tyrant's blood. Not a dragon slayer, but the dragon slayer. So, we have magic items are common and magic items are rare. So what's the third option? Somewhere in between, like kind of prevalent? Wait, no magic items? A game without toys and rewards? Is this a crazy idea? Well, not in 5e, where your characters could be absolutely fine without magic items at high levels. Like, this demigod doesn't need another way to cast Wish. No magic items covers basically everything that isn't fantasy. That's level 1 assessment, but think about it. No magic items in fantasy can completely change things. Without them, you have a standard medieval world, or maybe some fantasy thrown in, one where the existence of a cleric is to be the divine warrior sent by God, and if you're a wizard, then you're either revered and marvelled at, or feared by all in the land. But let's say that someone was holding a gun to your head, and it wasn't me, and they said you have to run a game of D&D, Pathfinder, or whatever fantasy combat game you prefer, but you can't have magic items, by their strict definition. What could you have instead? And even more, what would doing so do to your setting? Well, if you wanted to offer the mechanical fun of giving your players new things to do, but not having it be through the medium of magic items, they could all be blessings. For doing grand deeds, each character is blessed with abilities that are akin to magic items, but they're simply emblems, tattoos, or intrinsic power, and you can set a limit to how many the characters have, because if you have too many, then you're only mortal, and that mortal frame will explode. This very simple change would be an interesting lens to look more into the gods of your world, and how they're a constant presence in everyday life. Perhaps the players are all chosen ones who are destined to save the world as the prophecy foretold. Maybe you don't like blessings. Okay, maybe your players get a range of cool powers throughout the game, but they only do so when they kill other creatures. This twist would very much emphasize the fighting gameplay loop of your combat game, and it rewards players for being in the sessions to slay evil. And a popular example of this? Perhaps after you kill a dragon, you gain its soul, Skyrim style. But think about what this would mean for your setting. The most powerful people that you meet have killed countless monsters, and the monster populations would be in a constant flux. Like the Witchers, the world's obsession with power that can be gained with the ending of lives may lead to a business of dwindling populations. And it only takes one little change to make this very dark, from changing killing of dragons and monsters to people. Okay, maybe you're not into the whole my thief has a golden tattoo in their hand that gives them some divine blessing, or you're not into inner power after snorting draconic ashes, but you have a setting where the only way to the top is to cut off your legs and then stitch some new ones on. Instead of acquiring a new item, what about mutations, or physically grafting monster chunks to your body? If this was the source of power in your game, then the transhumanism idea present in the likes of Cyberpunk, aka improving the human body with mechanics, could lead to a new race of grim humanoids with monstrous limbs. I'm currently making games with both of the latter two examples, aka mutations and reaping power from monsters, and it's led to me making a rather grim system built around attuning to these powers. But in brief, having a setting with no magic items can force you to think outside the box and surprise your players and yourself with how unique the setting can become. Taking an old staple and tweaking it, or just changing it completely, can make your setting 1000% more interesting. I promise you. But on the topic of alternate rewards, this gives you something to look forward to for the next video. There is more to reward your players with other than gold, XP, and magic items, and in the next video, I go over 3 fun new ways. I'm Ellis, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, share the video maybe. Any help you can give can help this channel improve, and doing that is all free for you. Also, click the video on screen to see 3 ways of handling maps and travel in your game, so you can chart out where you're next looking for loot. I love you all, and I'll see you next Saturday.